What the law of karma says in Buddhism is that when we think or speak or act under the influence of greed, hatred, or delusion, we then sow the crops. We're sowing the crops, and that will ripen in suffering in our lives. But if we act like good qualities, we act under the influence of good qualities like generosity, kindness, and wisdom, we then sow the crops that will ripen in happiness. That is what the law of karma says, or you might even want to call it the law of harvest, the law of how things work in our mind, in our character, and in the world around us. Sometimes karma ripens in the here and now, but it also carries over in the next life, according to Buddhism. It even carries over in subsequent lives. So the things that we do now not only affect our present life, but also the future lives, the lives to come. So there's this famous, well, not famous, but there's this novel about people who are going through many lifetimes, and they have karma that is operating in many lifetimes. And the book is called Cloud Atlas. I think there was a movie made about it as well. And in that book, they have this very well put statement. It says that every little bad thing we do, every little vice we do, every little goodness we do, it will affect us for many lifetimes. Like if you throw a little pebble in the water, and the water will just have these rings, will just be flowing, will just, every little thing we do will just affect many lifetimes to come. And that is how we look at karma in Buddhism as well. Every little thing influences us and carries over in the next life as well. So when we are believing that is a thing, that karma is really existing in this world, then that is what we call faith in Buddhism. Faith in Buddhism is not so much being confident about that Buddhism works or that Buddhism is good or something. That is part of it. But faith in Buddhism has a more broader meaning as well. That is that there is really something that pays off when you do good, that really goodness will give you happiness in return. And when you do something wrong, it will always somehow work against you. And that is what we call faith. And there's many ways you can talk about that, the ripening of karma, the ownership of karma. But this is basically what it comes down to, that everything we do has an effect. But karma is not always easy to understand. And that's what I'm trying to say, that you can't really fully understand it unless you use the depth of meditation. So the Buddha himself, he said that as well. He said that we cannot fully understand karma because karma is very complicated. There are always karmas that are interacting, and one of them that cancels out another one, and the other one strengthens the other one. It's like a very complex mix. So when we look at life, and sometimes we ask the question, why do people suffer? Why does this person suffer? Why is this person happy? Then we understand that karma is very complicated, very complicated. But there's rules. There is like a sort of regulation. There's not like what do you call it? There's like a sort of laws of karma, but it's very difficult to analyze every single situation like that. The principles of karma basically come down to the karma will always ripen for the person who did it, and not for anybody else. And the karma that has been done will ripen as soon as it obtains an opportunity, but it's not always immediately. It's not always instant karma. You can find these videos on YouTube and social media with people who have immediate bad karma, instant karma when they do something wrong, for example, in traffic or something like that. But in reality, karma is very often not instant. So we have to understand that life is complicated like that. And karma must always ripen sooner or later. We cannot flee from it. Karma is in that way, you cannot flee from it. You cannot get away from it. But a karma will ripen in kind. So if you, for example, if you practice generosity often to other people, then generosity will come back to you. If you are intelligent and you invest a lot of time and energy in trying to learn and understand things, then that will come to you as well. If you are trying to be kind to others in ways that are not always visible, maybe you give something to a beggar and not many people know about that, it will still come back to you in some way or form. So this is how karma works. It will ripen in kind. A karma may not always ripen all at once. And that is interesting as well. When we do something good, we give a little bit of encouragement to somebody. And will not just come back once. It will come back many times. This is how strong karma is. Or when you gossip about somebody, maybe it will come back to us many times. People will start gossiping about us many times, just at one time. So our actions have many consequences according to the law of karma. But karma does get exhausted at some point. So when you do something and you've done something wrong and it affects your life and you realize, oh, this is my karma, at some point it will gradually become exhausted. So it's not like when we do something wrong, it will always follow us. There will be a time, there will be a moment when it's just gone. At the same time, when we do good karma, it will also affect us. So it will also, at a certain point, become exhausted, no longer affecting our lives. So that's why goodness in Buddhism is something that we see as something to continue we have to maintain it in our lives. We have to continue to keep doing it, and that is something very important. And it's also something that you can see in Thai language as well. In Thai language, we sometimes say that goodness is something you have to maintain, just like the salt can maintain the food. So in conclusion, karma is an impersonal law. It's like a law that exists and that was not created for us. There's nobody on a cloud somewhere looking at us and this guy, he needs this karma right now. He needs this karma right now. There's nobody, there's nothing like that. Karma is impersonal and has no intelligence of itself. It's just a law, like the law of gravity is not intelligent either. So karma can't help us or work against us unless we use it in the right way. And karma isn't always a lesson. It's not always fair. It's only a lesson if we make it into a lesson. And that is why in Buddhism, what we make out of lives is very much our own decision. What we make out of lives, what we create, what we find meaning in life is very much what we create ourselves. So there's nobody who deserves karma, but it always affects us. So karma, we talked about that a lot. And how about justice in life? What about when people talk about overcoming bias, overcoming discrimination, and being a good leader, showing good leadership, having no bias to anybody for race, for gender, and all that kind of thing. Social justice, right? Well, in Buddhism, there is talk about that. There is talk about that. There is this basic idea of being good leadership is always about not being biased because of four things: greed, hatred, delusion, and fear. And that when you really are aware of that, when you often look at yourself, reflect on yourself, and you think about that, how can you prevent yourself from being a person who is greedy?
Cosa vuol dire? Non traduci.
How can you prevent yourself from being greedy, from being hateful, being led by delusion, or being led by fear? So this is something that we often have to reflect on. We have to look at ourselves honestly. These days, there's a lot of discussion about discrimination and about racism and institutional racism. But I think it's important to realize that whether we talk about race, gender, or anything else that causes people to have bias, we have to understand that eventually bias is always about a negative emotion or an unrealistic perception changing the way we look at lives. Changing the way we look at lives. So whether we talk about institutional racism, we talk about sexism or any other social problem, it's always about these greed, hatred, delusion, and fear that causes things to be twisted, causes us to see things not really as it is. So in the time of the Buddha, people would ask the Buddha, if we have somebody who we put into the leadership, for example, the abbot, the main monk of the monastery, or we give some monk some responsibility or give some nun some responsibility, how do we choose the right person? And then the Buddha would always say, the person who doesn't have, the person who is competent, but also has no bias. Yeah. And we always have a little bit of bias sometimes, but we learn to make it sure that it's as at the least possible. And that is how we learn to overcome social injustice, by learning to look at bias really deeply. So to come to the end of the conclusion, come to the end of today's talk, Buddhism doesn't believe in a naturally fair world or a just world, but because it makes us, it's not only untrue, but it also makes us passive. If you really believe that everything's fair already, then you don't need to do anything as a human being to make things right. But the way we look at justice in Buddhism is you can and you have to strive for a fair world through compassion and wisdom, through your kind heart and your sharp mind. We have to create a good world ourselves. So it's not about world being good by itself already, or just trusting our fate, or trusting that everything will follow the plan. No, there's nothing like that in the Buddha's teaching. It's all about coming them back to your own responsibility, and we working together as good citizens to make this world a better place.